So the fat bastard is talking now. He's making his address to the Congress, and yeah, they're all just patting themselves on the back for a job well done, or they think they're doing such a great job. They really are, but yeah, I mean this is ridiculous. I've got this video. We're going to talk about layoffs here. I know I keep pausing it, but it keeps starting back up again. We're going to talk about layoffs. There's Donald Trump, or should I say the fat bastard. You got J.D. Vance, and then Speaker Mike Johnson. They're all in on this together here. We're living in a dictatorship, basically. And we're going to talk about the layoffs that are going on because I have people I know that are going to probably lose their job over these layoffs. All right, so we're going to first start not with this article, but with NOAA. All right, NOAA, the National Weather Service. Yeah, they're laying off people at the National Weather Service in this time of climate crisis. Dr. Evil is laying off people at NOAA. All right, and this is going to be affecting our weather forecasts and also our access to data. 1 cent tsunami, we'll read this article here. It says 1 cent tsunami alerts, another flew with hurricane hunters. Both were just fired from NOAA. The fat bastards last week cut about 600, and I'm not going to call them, I'm going to call them the evil duo. Last week cut about 600 workers at NOAA and the National Weather Service. All right, so a scientist with a doctorate who issues tsunami alerts, a hurricane hunting flight director, a researcher studying which communities will get flooded when a storm strikes. They were among the more than 600 workers the Trump administration, or should I say the evil duo, cut last week when it eliminated about 5% of the workforce at the National Weather Service and National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. I was considered an essential employee, part of a 24/7 safety watch, says Kayla Bisong, a physical scientist at the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center, which sends tsunami alerts. Until Thursday, she was part of a team of 12 who programmed the systems that determine whether parts of the U.S. coastline are at risk and issued alerts accordingly. 2 people were required to be working at all times. The mass firing of educated, specialized workers who viewed themselves as the next generation of scientists protecting life and liberty could stretch NOAA's workforce thin and hinder work on programs designed for public safety, former agency employees and leaders said. Climate change is making weather disasters more common. Last year, NOAA counted $27 billion disasters, which resulted in the deaths of 568 people in the United States. It was the second highest number since 1980, when NOAA began keeping such records, even accounting for inflation. At the same time, meteorologists and forecasters say they face public vitriol and harassment despite increasingly accurate predictions. Sound familiar? Look at what happens to me. Some blame the polarization of climate change and proliferation of conspiracy theories. A White House official said an extensive process was conducted before the NOAA layoffs to ensure mission-critical functions weren't compromised. Yeah, like I believe that, right? I don't believe anything. The fat bastard is right now lying his head off over there, all right? The cuts were part of the Trump administration's mass firings of federal workers, which have spurred protests and legal challenges. Some researchers have warned that cuts to health and science agencies in particular could walk back or stall years of progress. A NOAA spokesperson said the agency wouldn't comment on the layoffs. We are not discussing internal personnel and management matters. NOAA remains dedicated to its mission, providing timely information, research, and resources that serve the American public. Susan Buchanan, a National Weather Service public affairs officer, said in a statement Thursday, because I'm sure that she was told to say that by Trump, or, you know the way he works. If you don't do what he says, you're gone. Because he's a dictator. We don't live in a democracy anymore, folks. Former agency officials rallied against the cuts, saying they threaten public safety during weather crises. Every office in NOAA was hit by these indiscriminate, misguided, ill-informed terminations, said Rick Spearnett, NOAA administrator under then-President Joe Biden. Don't you miss Joe Biden? I miss Joe Biden. At least he wasn't a dictator. We're coming into tornado season. Hurricane season isn't too far behind. We're going to still have some winter storms, we're going to have floods and droughts. Democrats in Congress, too, spoke out against the moves at a news conference Friday and at a rally Monday at NOAA headquarters. Without the warnings of extreme weather events, hurricanes, tsunamis, and other things, people will die and others will suffer greatly, including huge property loss. And that's why this is an assault on our public safety, said Senator Chris Van Hollen from Maryland. Bisong began her job as a physical scientist at the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center in Hawaii in September. The center provides alerts to the military and U.S. embassies and issues them for vulnerable coastlines in the Pacific Ocean and Caribbean. During tsunami events, Bisong said, she would call the military installations with information about risk and contact local emergency managers. I was using my skills to actively help people, said Bisong, who has a doctorate in atmospheric science. You're directly using your skills to improve systems that protect and warn against hazards. She also added that tsunami alerts rely on complicated bespoke computer programs that analyze seismic and tidal data. When there's a large displacement in the Earth's crust or water, we get notified and we have to determine if there is an earthquake large enough to generate a tsunami or a tsunami has been generated by other means, Bisong said. I've been developing these skills for over 10 years. I'm an excellent programmer. Their systems are very niche, and they require people who know how to program. Even before the latest cut, she said, the office was strapped for resources and needed to develop a new generation of workers. You do need to have a high level of expertise to understand and jump in on these systems, Bisong said, saying the job required a doctorate or a master's degree and additional experience. Like Bisong, Andy Hazelton, a hurricane modeling specialist, also has a doctorate and spent years developing specialized computing skills. Hazelton helped develop NOAA's next-generation hurricane modeling program called HAFS as an academic at the University of Miami. He joined NOAA's Environmental Modeling Center on the October day when Hurricane Milton hit the Florida coastline and was then fired Thursday. His work involved using supercomputers to advance hurricane forecasting. We are working on the physical approximations, trying to make it more accurate so the forecast error continues to shrink, the cone continues to get smaller, and so people who are going to get hit get more lead time, Hazelton said, referring to the graphic that shows the probability of a hurricane's path. There is a lot of expertise that get lost on this. The HAFS model indicated that both hurricanes Helene and Milton would intensify rapidly, which helped forecasters predict more powerful storms and get more strident warnings out. We do work people use to keep themselves safe, he said. Some data that Hazelton's models rely on is at risk as well. Kerry Englert, a NOAA flight director and meteorologist, was also fired. During Hurricane Hunter missions, flight directors advise pilots about the safest routes and how to get the best data for modeling. Englert was on board a Hurricane Hunter aircraft during Hurricanes Beryl, Helene, and Milton last year. We do put our lives on the line to go do these missions, Englert said, a Navy veteran. It is a passion. I have spent 10 years chasing after this job. Before the cuts, Englert said NOAA had aimed to have 10 flight director positions filled, but after she and another were terminated, that just left 6. Now she said if one flight director is sick, there will be fewer Hurricane Hunter flights. During hurricanes, I hope that hurricane hits Mar-a-Lago and just destroys it. Maybe with Trump inside, that would even be better. What a fat bastard he is. During hurricane season, and maybe Musk too, yeah, they all need to be in there. Just get rid of them all in one big giant wave. During hurricane season, meteorologists rely on the one-of-a-kind data the flights gather, which feeds into hurricane models. It's going to increase the uncertainty, Englert said. You're looking at additional evacuations. Other fire workers were also helping develop modeling tools that haven't been rolled out at scale. The cuts may affect the tool's quality and implementation timelines. Evan Belkin, a doctoral student at the University of Albany, was hired at the National Weather Service in 2023 as part of a program that allows people still finishing degrees to work at the agency. He worked at the service's Northeast River Forecast Center and its weather forecast office in Albany, New York, until last week. He helped launch weather balloons and was part of a team building flood mitigation mapping tool. The tool, still in development, is designed to model which areas in a community will flood in heavy rain, including the extreme events that climate change is making more likely. Early versions of these maps were distributed to some local emergency managers, Belkin said, and the goal was to expand the services nationwide by 2026. The model accurately predicted that flooding in Montalplit, Vermont in July 2023 would reach the state capitol building. Belkin visited to confirm the model got it right. He was among several students and employees working on the tool who were let go. When you don't have people and bodies to verify how accurate model depictions are, you are not going to be successful, Belkin said. Without people and bodies, this flood inundation mapping project is going to go down the shitter. The cuts also reduced the number of meteorologists taking public calls and putting out forecasts. On the morning he was fired, he said, Francis Taraziewicz, a National Weather Service meteorologist in Rhode Island, started work at about 5:30 a.m., putting together 4 to 7 day forecasts, as well as forecasts specifically for airports. We're not waste, he said. Oh, look, somebody set off the smoke alarm. It's another thing I get to deal with where I live. Yeah, well, I'll keep reading. Somebody's always being careless here, but let's get back to the article. Spinrad said at the news conference that every NOAA office has had reductions, including about 30% of the staff with the Office of Space Commerce. One of the functions of that office is to keep the roughly 30,000 objects in space from colliding with each other. Spinrad also warned that the loss of workers will be likely to push back seasonal outlooks and hurricane forecasts. Some of these products may end up being delayed in delivery because they don't have the staffing power. Typical NOAA and National Weather Services went dark almost immediately. Some typical NOAA and NWS services went dark almost immediately. Shortly after the firings, the National Weather Service, an office in Quezon, Alaska, said it would suspend releasing weather balloons. NOAA's Great Lakes Environmental Research Laboratory also said it would stop posting to social media. Due to a reduction in staff, NOAA ERL's communication services would also be taking an indefinite hiatus, he wrote on X. NOAA's external affairs team said on its website that the entire office has been eliminated. People's lives are in danger. It's not an exaggeration to say that. I'm worried. We're coming up on tornado season, hurricane season, and this is just scratching the surface, said Rachel Britton, who until Thursday was the deputy... God, again? And Rachel Britton, who was until Thursday, was the deputy director of the office. These huge cuts to NOAA's staff are likely going to affect the ability for NOAA to be effective. So this is what these cuts are terrible, and honestly, they should be stopped immediately. People need to resist this. If they say you're fired, don't leave the office. Continue to do your job. I know they'll call the police, they'll have you thrown out, but we gotta have some non-violent kind of resistance going on and stop this from happening. All right, we've got to defy these executive orders. Trump isn't even a legitimate president. We shouldn't have to listen to anything he says because he's not really a legitimate president. Right? That's just the thing. This is just all People got to stop obeying these things. They say you're fired, don't leave. Refuse to leave. People got to resist this stuff, man. We got to resist this stuff. Then we come to Social Security here. And this affects me. I'm worried about they're going to close Social Security offices. Social Security could collapse. This is and now we may get tax bills. Social Security offices are closing. Elon Musk said Social Security is a Ponzi scheme. And then there's been cuts to Medicaid. They say they won't cut Medicaid, but their budget plan says otherwise. Because in order for them to cut the money that they're trying to cut from these things, there's no choice but to cut Medicaid. So they're just lying. They're just lying through their teeth. And people are getting angry about it. People are getting angry about it. People are contacting their Congress. Congress needs to do their effing job and stop applauding the president and impeaching him. That's what they need to do. And let's see if they're still... Is he still going? He's still going. He's still going.
Americans, not for others, but others could use it. but it was built at tremendous cost of American blood.
So yeah, he's just going on and on and on. And then we come to the layoffs at national parks. Parks Group warns of the dismantling of national parks. Yes, they're firing a lot of people in the National Park Service. And the parks could be dismantled, according to this article here. It says the Trump administration is planning to terminate National Park Service leases and shutter 34 offices across the country that function as visitor centers, law enforcement offices, museums, and hubs for critical services. The National Parks Conservation Authority is calling on the administration to immediately stop these reckless lease cancellations before they inflict even more damage on national parks. Field offices and facilities slated for lease termination house vital staff, including scientists, archaeologists, superintendents, and others who carry out the basic operations and mission of national parks. If these facilities are eliminated, 8 visitor centers will be shut without an alternative location in place, and millions of artifacts stored in a climate control facility will have no equivalent facility to be housed. Emergency, search, and rescue and law enforcement services would also be shut down. So here's a list of the ones: Fairbanks in Alaska, one in Arkansas, another one in Florida, Tallahassee, and law enforcement in San Antonio, Texas. And it's going to get worse. It's going to get worse. And then they're laying off people at the IRS, too. As many as 90,000 people. Oh, yeah, get rid of the IRS so we don't have to tax the rich. This is all to pay for tax cuts for billionaires. All right? This is what it's all done. We got to storm the fucking Capitol, throw this fucking tyrant out of office, and we got to do it soon. And I mean it, a real insurrection. Get this fucking piece of shit out of office. I don't care how. I don't give a shit how. He's got to be stopped. All right? He's destroying this country. I have every right to say this. We got to fight like hell to get our country back right now. We got to do it. Storm the Capitol, throw this fucking bastard out of office. Drag him out of there if we have to. All of them. Mike Johnson, J.D. Vance, Elon Musk, all these piece of shit Republicans. All of them. I'm never going to vote for a Republican ever again, just seeing the way this party has behaved. I had to yell, I had to raise my voice because I'm angry, I'm fed up, and nobody seems to get it, how serious. Oh, and then we have the tariffs, too. That's the other thing. All right? We got to save this country, folks. This is war, and war isn't pretty. We have a tyrant, a dictator who is basically taking over our country and taking our services and giving it to the rich, and we've got to take our country back. And I don't care how at this point. I don't care how. No, if Congress doesn't impeach him, then we've got to remove him ourselves. All right? This is war. This is war. That's it.